Welcome to Career and Leadership Real Talk, the no-nonsense guide for ambitious managers who want to have more impact and progress their career. I'm Pamela Langan, a job search coach and expert CV writer specialising in helping frustrated professionals land the jobs and pay rises they know they deserve.
And I'm Jackie Jagger, a leadership and mindset coach specialising in helping newly promoted and new to role leaders to avoid the dickhead trap and lead with confidence. Between us, we've helped hundreds of leaders and managers to find new roles, take ownership of their careers, and handle the challenges that job searches and leadership responsibility inevitably bring. And now we're joining forces to share with you what we know has worked for our clients.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode. Today, we are talking about how to find and secure a mentor, because we know that finding the right mentors can really help accelerate your career. So as usual, we're going to jump straight in with what is a mentor, because we know that there's some common misconceptions around what a mentor is and what a mentor can actually support with. So Jackie, give us your best overview.
So with misconceptions, I think probably the biggest one is that people narrow the view. So the typical perspective, I think, is that people assume that mentors are someone that you are paired with or partnered with, and you have an ongoing mentoring relationship over a period of time with that one person. And that one person is someone who is older and wiser, more experienced, and has been there, done it, got the t-shirt, and is going to share with you all these golden nuggets of information and give you guidance and advice so that you can hopefully avoid making mistakes that they may have made. And that's how you get your progress. And probably the reason that's the typical view is because that's how a lot of organizational mentoring schemes are set up, that they match one mentor with one mentee and they work together over a period of time. But for us, mentoring is broader than that. So that's one way that a mentoring relationship can occur and can happen. But beyond that, mentors can be people who you have one individual conversation with, not just an ongoing relationship. They can be people within or outside of your organization. And mentors will give you the benefit of their experience, but that can be broader than doing it just by giving guidance or advice. So they may, for example, be able to give you access to their network, make introductions on your behalf. In an organizational context, they might be people who might have the capacity to be able to secure resources for you or your team, for example. They could be people that might be able to enable you to have experiences that you wouldn't otherwise have. So they might be able to enable you to go to events or to shadow them in meetings, those kinds of things where you can learn from those experiences. But also, mentors can be people who help you learn from your own experiences as well as from their experience. So they can be a sounding board, they can be a thinking partner, they can be somebody that helps you make sense of what you need to think about, not necessarily relating it to their own experience, because they might not have had experience of that particular thing, but in knowing you and having an understanding of who you are and what you're about, they can help you sort through and find your best way through challenges or obstacles that you might face.
Yeah, so I suppose with that in mind, it's time to rethink what mentoring really does look like for you and how it can best support you. And just thinking of that more senior person who's got all of the knowledge, that person, that go-to person, that's the font of all knowledge. Like the mentor or your mentor doesn't actually need to be that person. It's just somebody that's got something or knows something that's going to help you move forward faster. And I suppose when you think about it like that, it makes it easier to think about who could be right. Because when you're looking for the full package, it's like, where do I start? And I suppose you'd probably start thinking about maybe that person with the job title that I would eventually love to have. But then actually their journey might be totally different to yours and all of the rest of it. So I suppose it is about scaling it back, isn't it? And going, what are the parts that I need to look at? And thinking about who can share their wisdom. And I think sometimes as well, you don't realize who actually has that knowledge until you start asking, inquiring, really thinking about what you need, and maybe even like just chatting to people just to understand their journey, where they've come from and all of the rest of it. I think that can sometimes be really useful as well.
And I think some of the mentors that I've certainly had during the course of my career, it's come about on a far less formal or structured basis. It's come about because I've noticed somebody and thought, oh, they're really good at that thing. I'd like to be better at that thing. And then I have a conversation with them, or I might ask them, how did they get to be able to, I don't know, do a brilliant presentation to the board? Or how did they get to be so brilliant at creating a story around numbers so that it's compelling? Whatever that thing is that I've noticed that they can do, that's often been the thing that I've first asked people about. And that's how that can start. So I think as people are listening, you may well find that actually you have already got people who are acting as a mentor to you in some form or another. But equally, it might not be that huge a thing that you need to ask somebody. It can be something that you can develop in a far more organic way, rather than it be this huge thing of, like you say, I've got to go out and find the full package and the perfect mentor.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when I think about the mentors that I've worked with over the years, from like early in my career through to starting a business and all of that kind of stuff as well, there's so many different people and they've been so different in so many ways. And I've taken so much from them, even if it's just the way they handle themselves, the way that they do business, the way that they operate within the corporate world. Like, there's been so much that I've taken from them. And as part of doing the research for this episode, I was thinking through some of those experiences and what I got from that. And I think one of the things that came up for me was, a lot of the time when I entered into those relationships, I wasn't 100% sure on what I needed to get. I was so lucky because those people still were able to give so much value, and they were able to point me in different directions, and I learned a lot from them. But when I look back and I reflect on some of those relationships and some of those conversations, I think I could have got so much more and learned so much more faster from that person if I'd have gone with a plan or a clear objective on what I needed their support with. It worked out quite well in some cases that I got some extra bits and pieces, but actually sometimes that can take you away from the goal that you're working towards. So it's good to get that extra information, but also good to really stay on track, and then you can bring that extra stuff in later. So I think for me, the assessing where you are and what you need is super important, isn't it? And I know that when we were looking at this episode and what we're going to talk through, self-assessment and preparation, before you even start thinking about who is the mentor, is super key. So in terms of that self-assessment and getting prepared to start looking and having these conversations, what would you say people need to do to get started?
So I think some of the questions that you can ask yourself is, what is driving my desire to want to have a mentor right now? So it could be that you are preparing for a career move. It could be that you're not having the degree of impact that you might want to have in the role that you're currently doing. It could be that you want to learn about a new industry. There could be a million and one different things, but I think the clearer you are about what that thing is that you want some help and support with, is going to make it much easier to start to look and find people who might be able to support with it. And it's that case of knowing where you want to get to as a result of working with a mentor, and then asking yourself the questions of, where might I look? Who might have some experience or some way of enabling me to fill that gap? So a good example was, I was working with a client who, her longer term aspiration was that she wanted to be a CEO. And the question that we explored was, okay, so at the point that you want to apply for a CEO role, what is it that you're going to need at that point that somebody is going to be looking for, but you're not likely to get that experience or that understanding within the function and the role that you're currently doing, or the role that you may have done as a stepping stone between now and then. And what became really clear was that for her, that missing piece, if you like, was financial governance, that her role as a director was unlikely to give her the degree of understanding of financial governance that people recruiting CEOs might want to find. Now, that then effectively can give two options. Do you look to find a CEO who has been recruited and who has done that? And you can ask them about how did you gain that understanding of financial governance? But also you can look at, okay, so I'm in a director role, who's my CFO at the moment, and can I actually start to explore and build my understanding beyond what is necessary for my current role, but that will help me with understanding financial governance in a way that I might need to articulate and be able to do in the future.
Yeah, and I think that is the key, isn't it? It's about looking at those areas where you feel like this is an area that I need to improve, because I suppose if you were in that situation, if you were looking to become a CEO in the future, then you might be thinking another CEO is going to be my ideal mentor. And while, yeah, they could definitely add some value at some point where you're talking about like the financial governance side of it, then that's more than likely that's not going to be a CEO. That's going to be somebody that specializes in finance, that's going to be able to give you that really focused advice and guidance around that area, and probably is more knowledgeable than any other CEO in that area. So it's one of those things, isn't it, where you go, oh, right, and you start thinking a little bit differently about it, because I know, like, I've been guilty of it in the past, where you go, right, okay, I need a mentor because I need to do X, Y, and Z, and but are they the right people? And unpacking it in this way and going, what are the bits that I need the support with? And then going, actually, maybe it is a different kind of person, or it's a different job title, or somebody in a different industry, and then creating a plan around that. So I suppose with that, the next part is finding those potential mentors. So once you've gone, right, okay, this is the area that I need support with, these are the potential people or the type of people that could help me, how do you then start approaching or even like identifying these potential mentors? Because I think this is the bit, I know this is the bit my clients struggle with the most, and I think this is the hardest bit, because it's all right identifying what you need from the mentor, but then it's like, right, now you've got to get out into that real world and speak to them, ask them, approach them. That can be quite daunting.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting one to try and almost create yourself a list of multiple possibilities of people that could fulfill that, because you'll get different things from different people. So you don't have to limit yourself to just pinning all your hopes on one person. So you can think about, for example, who is there within my organization, but maybe not in my function, or who I don't necessarily have as close a relationship with. It could be somebody that you've worked with in the past. It could be somebody that you follow or are connected with on LinkedIn, and you can see that they've got a lot of knowledge and experience in the area that you want to work on. It could be people who are active in professional groups or memberships that you're part of. A lot of industries have industry bodies or membership organizations as part of that. You will often have access to be able to connect with people who are perhaps further outside of your comfort zone in terms of approaching, but who might have exactly the right kind of things that you might want to learn from. So I would always encourage people to think quite broadly at that point, and like I say, have a list of potential people that might fulfill different specific aspects of the overall picture, rather than just, this is it, I've got one person, let's go.
Yeah, and that is great advice. And I think one of the things that comes up for my clients, especially, is around, once you've identified those people, then they talk themselves out of it and go, oh, but that person is maybe too senior, or maybe they're too busy. Why would they want to mentor me? I don't know if I want to ask them. And essentially what they're doing is they just don't want to get into that conversation, because they'd hate to hear that, no, I can't help you. But what we find generally is that people are happy to help. And when you approach them and ask for help, as long as you break it down and tell them exactly what you want help with, they're usually more than happy to help, or at least have a conversation around it. But in terms of making those successful approaches, what would be your top tips around making sure that it is a yes, or that they can be as clear as possible with the request?
So the thing I always say to people is make it as easy as possible for that person to say yes. And some of the things that make it easier for people to say yes are actually really simple tweaks to how you might approach. So if you approach someone with a really broad, please, can you be my mentor? That's unclear what you are actually asking of them. And that in your head might be one thing, in their head might be something else. So I would say start off with chunk it down, make it specific, and make it really clear and unambiguous what it is that you are asking for. And also start with one thing. Even if on an ideal basis you would want to have an ongoing regular meeting with this person as a mentor, don't start by, can you be my mentor for the next 6 to 12 months? And can we meet for 2 hours a month? And can I pick your brains on everything that I want to learn from you? Pick one specific thing, make it simple, make it clear. And like you say, people do love to help. And it's also flattering to be approached as someone as a potential mentor. So even if somebody doesn't have the capacity and is saying no, the fact that you've identified them for a reason. So tell them what that reason is. What have you seen in them that you think you could learn from? Because at the very least, even if they can't help you, you're doing a nice thing for them. You're telling them what it is that you've noticed that could be beneficial.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? If you can tell them and really chunk it down as to what you want the support with, then it's easier for them to visualize that time in their calendar where they can catch up with you, or they can put a call in, and it just feels so much smoother than if you, like you say, if you just approach somebody and you say, can you be my mentor? That can mean so many things to so many people. And it is hard if you are busy in your job. Most people are. When somebody approaches you and it's, well, what would you like mentoring on? I've had so many requests to be a mentor, and it's okay, what would you like to be mentored on? If I don't know, I just would like a mentor, just need a mentor, or I'm thinking about getting a promotion or whatever it is. And it's okay, what specifically do you need support with? And I think that's the thing, isn't it? Because sometimes those mentors are not gonna have those questioning abilities. They're not going to have the time to really think about how can they break that down and get that from you. So if you go to them and you start small, that's going to really help them to visualize it, put it in the calendar. And also as well, like thinking about the research that you've done on them as well, like what makes them the right person, because I think that's key, isn't it? If somebody just approaches you and asks to be, can you be my mentor? And it's, yep. But you think, oh, that's lovely that someone thinks that, but why? And where does that come from? Whereas if you say, I've been following your journey, or I've heard this, or I've seen that, or seen you speak at this event, or I saw that you've delivered a certain project, and it's like, all right, okay, so this person is also genuinely interested in my skills, as well as they're looking for a mentor, but they also have follows a bit about my journey as well. And I think that feels quite nice as well.
Yeah, particularly if it's somebody that you don't know well. I think hearing that somebody has noticed those things is really nice. And again, it comes back to, it feels nice for them to hear it, regardless of whether they can say yes or not. And I think the other thing I would say as well, when you're approaching people, is approach it. So if you take that example of someone that wants to get promoted that you mentioned, to approach somebody and say, I've seen that you've got promoted. I'm really keen to get to that next level. And I'd love to have some time with you to understand how you went about making that jump. Can we meet for a coffee, or would you mind having a half-hour conversation with me? makes it really clear and really easy for them to say yes to. Whereas if you're just saying, I've seen you, I've done a brilliant job at this level, and I'd really like to learn from you, can we have a conversation? Again, it's too general, it's not clear, and it just makes it much harder for people to know what to anticipate. It's easier to say no to, it's easier to ignore. Whereas if somebody's saying, I've seen this and this that you've done successfully, can I have half an hour of your time, or can I have an hour of your time? Then even if they can't do it immediately, they're more likely to say, do you know what? I'm absolutely stacked at the minute. I can't do it right now, but come back to me in 3 months.
Yeah. And also as well, one thing that I've done in the past is look to see if there's any events that those people might be going to or speaking at and things like that, so that you can then go and have that conversation in that more open space where you can then ask them more open questions and things like that, and make those approaches a little bit easier. Get used to being interested about people and asking them about themselves and them in them situations. And then obviously then when it comes to making your approaches and things like that, that could also make it a little bit easier.
Yeah. And I think being interested in people is really undervalued. We don't get taught to be interested. We get taught to try and be interesting. And when you're approaching a mentor, showing genuine interest in their experiences, what they've learned, people love to talk about themselves. So giving people an opportunity to talk about themselves by having some well-formed questions that will give you answers that you can learn from, that's being interested is a brilliant skill to have. So yeah, I love that suggestion of doing that at events and elsewhere where you're not putting so much pressure on that. And I think it just goes to show there's so many different ways that you can learn and so many different forms that mentoring can take. And somebody doesn't even have to know that they are your mentor. That word doesn't have to have been mentioned for you to be able to learn and gain from the experience that they've had.
Yeah, I like that perspective as well, because you don't have to always have that formal relationship in place, do you? You don't have to have that formal conversation. But like you say there, you can be interested and you can get so much more information and understanding and knowledge from somebody when you are being interested in their career, in their journey, and it could even be in things that they do outside of the office. It could be a whole range of things that you could be interested about to get a conversation flowing with them. And when you start building those relationships, people are more inclined to be open to becoming a mentor and to spending more time with you. I suppose it's that whole relationship building element as well, isn't it? In terms of our final thoughts then around finding and securing your next mentor, or maybe even your first mentor, what would you say our top tips are?
The summary of this is just let it be simple. Don't overcomplicate it. So start with getting clear on what is it that you want to have the benefit of a mentor to help with? What is it that you want help with? Create your shopping list of who might be some people that I can learn from that might be able to help me with this thing. And then chunk it down, find the specifics, be brave and make an approach, but do it in a way that keeps it simple and manageable for them and makes it easy for them to say yes to.
Yeah, I love that. And I think if you are listening to this and you are thinking, this is something that I definitely need to explore or need to do more of, or really need to reflect on to understand how a mentor could help me, then don't forget, you can always come and join us over in the Catalyst Career Club. All of the links are in the show notes. And as usual, please share it with anybody that you think would enjoy this episode or find it useful. And don't forget to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platforms. And we'll be back next week with another episode.
Exciting news from us. If you're an ambitious leader or manager earning 50k or more and you're ready to take your career to the next level, we have an opportunity for you. Introducing Catalyst Career Club, your secret weapon for unlocking career success. As a member, you'll get access to monthly live training sessions, exclusive job opportunities, and and the ability to get personalised advice from us on your toughest career challenges.
We've helped thousands of driven leaders like you secure significant pay rises, land dream roles, and thrive in their careers. And now we want to support you in achieving your most ambitious career goals too. Membership is just $6.99 per month with no contract or tie-in. And as a special bonus for being our podcast listeners, you can use the code podcast at checkout to get your first month for just £1. Head over to pamelalangan.com/Catalyst Career Club to sign up now, and we'll see you inside.